buckle up because things in the Middle East, well, they just got very real very fast.
Yeah.
We're talking about the death of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. And
Right.
this is a seismic event that has the potential to shake up the entire region. And we're not just talking about headlines here. We're talking about the potential for a full-blown regional conflict.
Absolutely. This is a situation where really understanding the nuances and the history, the potential chain reactions here is crucial.
Absolutely. And that's why we're diving deep into this today.
Yeah.
We've got a stack of sources for you, live updates from CNN, some insightful analysis from the Washington Post, and a piece from NPR that adds a really important layer to all of this. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, like you're getting bombarded with these news alerts and aren't quite sure what to make of it all, that's where we come in.
Right.
We're going to break this down together.
Sometimes the most important information gets lost in all that noise.
Oh, absolutely.
The initial blast of breaking news.
Okay, let's set the scene. September 29th, 2024. Israel confirms a targeted airstrike in Beirut has killed Hassan Nasrallah.
Right.
Now, I know that name Hezbollah gets thrown around a lot,
Sure.
but understanding who Nasrallah was is key to really grasping the gravity of this situation.
He wasn't just some kind of figurehead. Nasrallah has been the leader of Hezbollah for over 4 decades.
Wow.
He shaped their ideology, their strategies, their very identity as an organization.
Wow.
He was a master of political maneuvering and military strategy.
And that's really important context because the U.S. and many Western nations, they've officially designated Hezbollah as a terrorist organization.
Right.
In fact, the NPR article that we have here highlights how the U.S. government is calling his death justice, directly linking it to Hezbollah's history of violence.
Yeah. And to really grasp that U.S. perspective, you almost have to go back to events like the Beirut barracks bombings back in the 80s. Hundreds of casualties, including many U.S. military personnel.
Right.
These attacks left a real scar on the American psyche, and they continue to shape how the U.S. views Hezbollah even today.
It's a stark reminder of the long and complicated history here. But this isn't just about the past, it's about what happens now. Hezbollah has built its reputation on resistance, and history suggests they see retaliation as a point of pride. For example, remember the 2008 assassination of Imad Munia, another top Hezbollah figure.
And that's a chilling parallel to what we're seeing now. That assassination didn't cripple the group. If anything, it seemed to galvanize them, make them even more determined.
And CNN's live updates are already painting a grim picture. Israel is continuing airstrikes across Lebanon, claiming to be targeting Hezbollah facilities. But we'll dive into the details of those strikes in a moment. But there's another layer to this we need to unpack, the potential for this conflict to spread. And the Washington Post article highlights something really concerning.
The Washington Post is reporting that Israel has expanded its air campaign to include strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, what does Yemen have to do with Lebanon?
Right.
And that's a very valid question.
Yeah, geographically, they're pretty far apart.
Geographically, they are very far apart.
Yeah. So it seems like a totally separate conflict,
Right.
but I'm guessing it's not that simple.
Not at all.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting from like a geopolitical standpoint.
Okay.
You see both Hezbollah and the Houthis, while they operate in different countries, different contexts,
Right.
they share a common thread.
Okay.
They're both supported by Iran.
Okay, so Iran is the link here.
Iran is the link.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
Iran has strategically cultivated relationships with these groups over the years,
Right.
providing them with financial aid, military training, weaponry.
Okay.
They see these groups as a way to project power in the region and to push back against their rivals, particularly the U.S. and Israel.
So by striking the Houthis in Yemen, is Israel essentially sending a message to Iran?
It's certainly a possibility.
Wow.
And we have to remember, the situation in Yemen is already a humanitarian crisis
Oh, yeah.
of epic proportions.
Right.
Adding more fuel to that fire
Oh, absolutely.
is a deeply troubling development.
And speaking of a crisis, the humanitarian situation in Lebanon is deteriorating rapidly as well.
You're right. CNN's coverage is
Yeah.
particularly harrowing.
Yeah.
They're reporting thousands of civilians displaced by the fighting. Families seeking refuge in whatever shelter they can find.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having to flee your home with just the clothes on your back,
Right.
not knowing what the future holds, where your next meal is going to come from?
It's unimaginable.
Yeah.
And with Israel conducting these airstrikes, it puts the U.S. in a really difficult position.
Right, and this is where, those historical tensions and alliances we talked about really come into play.
Yeah.
The CNN live updates are highlighting how the Biden administration is walking a very fine line right now.
Trying to, call for de-escalation, trying to prevent an all-out war, but at the same time, reiterating their unwavering support for Israel's right to defend itself.
Yeah, talk about a tightrope walk.
It really is.
That's the perennial challenge for any U.S. administration in this region.
Right.
Trying to balance these competing interests, trying to maintain some kind of stability and not alienate key allies. And this particular situation is even more delicate because, according to reports, Biden wasn't even given advance warning about the strike on Nasrallah.
No heads up.
No.
Wow. Okay, so that adds a whole other layer of complexity to the U.S.-Israel relationship here.
Yeah.
Especially with Biden now trying to broker a ceasefire.
It certainly complicates things. And this is where it gets really interesting. We've talked about the potential for retaliation, but history shows that taking out a leader doesn't always have the desired effect. Remember that CNN analysis by Peter Bergen we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, the one about decapitation strikes. That whole concept has always seemed, I don't know, a little counterintuitive to me.
Well, and Bergen backs that up with some pretty compelling examples.
Okay.
He points to the assassination of Hamas leader Sheikh Ahmed Yassin.
Right.
It didn't destroy Hamas. In fact, you could argue that it made them even more resolute, more determined.
Right.
And then there's, the rise of ISIS, even after the U.S. killed Abu Musa al-Zawahiri.
So killing a leader creates this vacuum, but often something even more extreme comes in to fill that void.
Yeah.
Sobering thought.
It is. And it makes predicting what happens next even more difficult.
Right.
Hezbollah is undoubtedly reeling from the loss of Nasrallah. This is a leader who was both revered and feared.
Absolutely.
But how they'll respond, who might rise up to fill that void, remains to be seen.
It's like everyone's holding their breath, waiting to see what they'll do.
Exactly. But while all eyes are on Hezbollah, CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh raises a really, I think, critical point.
Yeah.
He argues that it's actually Israel's next steps that are most crucial right now. Will they use this moment to push for a ceasefire? Will they try to de-escalate?
Right.
Or will they continue airstrikes, risking a much wider conflict?
Because a wider conflict is definitely a possibility here. We can't forget about Iran's reaction to all of this. They've condemned the attack, in no uncertain terms, and they've vowed to defend their interests.
And that vow is what's keeping everyone on edge, right?
Right.
Iran has been relatively restrained so far, but how long will that last?
Wow.
You've got Hezbollah feeling the pressure to avenge their leader's death. You've got Iran feeling like they need to show strength.
Yeah.
It's a tinderbox.
It's a tinderbox is an understatement. It's like someone just tossed a lit match into a fireworks factory.
Right.
So much uncertainty, so many actors, different agendas, historical grievances. This isn't just about Lebanon or Israel anymore.
All right. This is about the future of the entire region.
Right.
The balance of power. And the stakes. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher. What we're witnessing here, this is potentially a turning point, for better or for worse.
What a thought to leave us with.
Right.
For better or for worse. I know I'm left with a lot to think about, and I imagine you are too. This is a story that is still being written. It's one that we all need to be paying attention to. What are your takeaways from all of this? What questions are swirling in your mind right now? Keep asking those questions. Keep seeking out information. Because understanding what's at stake is absolutely crucial. And that's what we're here for, to help you navigate this complex world one deep dive at a time.